Welcome back, everybody. We're doing a demo now. So this is an opportunity to just talk about the how, but the how specifically in context with drawing from life. This is quite useful, and I started doing this in Sydney in the markets to earn money when I was a student artist. And it was quite an interesting process because people would sit down with you, and it's quite a lovely moment, but it's a risk moment, right? There's a risk here. There's a risk for Harjit that I might stuff it up. And there's a risk for me that I might stuff it up. So there's this space of tension and risk. And I think that's actually really important with bonding and making a relationship. Remember when we did that looking into each other's eye thing, you do that a little bit, but you don't do it a lot. Mostly you're here. And I tend to ask the person a leading question like, so are you a Perth person? And then that person might go on and talk about whatever they want to talk about, and then you're left to concentrate on your drawing without them worrying about it. Now, when you look at the page, I ask the model to look at me for a minute, and then I think about this. It is a nice little moment to go, okay, let me get this right, please, God. And you think, where are the eyes going to be? Oh, that's the middle, so eyes going to be about here. Now, when we're drawing Harjit, part of his identity is turban, which sticks up a little bit higher than the average hair, and the beard, which goes a little bit lower, well, quite a lot lower than the average chin, but that's very significantly part of his identity, so I think it's going to be much longer than it is wider. So I'm just doing a little bit of an assessment. How wide is it from turban to edge of turban to edge of turban, to how long is it? It's about 1.5. Starting with the eyes is good for the audience because the audience like to see, the most dramatic things unfold fairly quickly. Now, eyes are really important because they're always different, no matter who the person is. So it's important to get that eye, especially the angle of these 2 points, the tear duct and the edge of the eye. That angle, whether it's straight, up a little bit, down a little bit, is very peculiar to the person. And if you want the eye to be staring back at you, put a little halfway mark across the iris and put the pupil just above that line. That is the direct gaze look. Now then, I think about the whole eye socket. Got to keep still, Harjit.
Not so much.
Sorry, no, that's not true. While I'm drawing the eyes, then you can relax, okay? When you're drawing from life, you know that the model's going to move, right? And especially when you're drawing a portrait, they're not professional models. They're people who are taking a risk. So now, let's do another eye. One eye, one eye. So between every eye is another eye. Give or take 1 millimetre or 2, and that's exactly the same for every single face on the planet as we speak. And if it wasn't, you would notice it immediately. I'll just measure it a few thousand times because I probably won't get it right. The other thing about drawing is being a good drawer is about being a good corrector, and I'll talk about that later. Everything you ever do in a drawing will probably be wrong. Another theory about drawing portraits is that they say have one strong eye and one weaker eye. Why do you reckon they want that?
To give you a point to focus on, to draw you in more.
Like so that you focus on one eye rather than both eyes at once? Is that what you mean?
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you have different levels of emphasis around, then the audience's eyes will dance back and forward. They'll go back and forward and back and forward. And once they're dancing around, then the painting will feel more alive for them. So one strong and one weak. So now, a little point between the eyes there. So 1.5 and measure that down. And that's around about where the nose is. Ish, give or take a bit, because everybody holds their head differently. Some people hold their head like that, some people hold their head like that. And that's always going to affect the place where the noses and everything are positioned. Then I'm going to check that to get it right. And yeah, Harjit has the textbook face. Exactly 1.5 eyes is the length of your nose. But that's the tip of your nose. The rest of the nose comes up there. And textbook face, nose is exactly as wide as the gap between. So how does that make you feel?
I don't know what textbook you've been reading.
So remember, we're using realism as a teaching tool here, not my emotional relationship to the sitter. It is about realism, so that hopefully we can all see some similarities between Hajit and what's coming down here without it being infected by emotion, or, of course, that's part of it, but. So moustaches and beard are a gift. Look, you can't even see his lips. How fantastic is that? We don't have to draw them. So seeing where the edge of the moustache comes out is exactly under his eyes there. We end up with quarters 1, 2, 3. That's that point up to, do you call that triangle the 50?
Yeah, sure.
That triangle of fabric under the turban?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, that's the forehead. So where Haji's got that triangle, a lot of other people have a fringe, or that's where their hair starts. And then there's another quarter, which is the brain space. We can't see the top of Hajit's head. If we could, his hair would be around about there, all right? And if we look around the room and look at everybody's hair, that top bit of hair is actually significant, right? We don't often think about it, because when we're little, we draw people like this, don't we? And we often draw big eyes with big eyelashes, with a big mouth and a tiny little nose. So why do we do that? Because this is a classic expressive portrait. This is about our emotional relationship to the person. We don't really care about their hair, although social constructions have said girls have long hair, boys have short hair, in the Western world anyway. But that's a social construct. But we're very interested in eyes, since everybody went, hello, 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 since we were a child. We're not at all interested in noses because we don't care. Noses don't give us anything. But we're interested in mouths because mouths are so expressive as well. Sometimes eyebrows as well. Eyebrows are incredibly expressive. If you're ever looking at your drawing and you think there's something wrong with it, lower the eyes. It's foolproof. So, this space here is really important. Half an eye. Half an eye. And now I'm going to think about the turban. So I'm going to use this as a horizontal line, and I can see when I put that horizontal line, turban comes about halfway down the nose, and then it goes out, and I'm going to make an estimate. And estimate where it comes out in, about there. And you all know what this is, don't you? Measuring in space. So when it comes to drawing hair, never think of hair as individual strands, always think of it just as shapes first. Now, I've got basically something that looks sort of like Hajit. Now I can make an assessment. The ideal way of looking at a portrait, of course, is like that. And yeah, it sort of looks like him, but it's not exactly like him. So I'm going to start trying to get some specifics around Hajit's own particular look. Sometimes that can be done with tone. Now, another thing about drawing live and drawing somebody who's taken a risk is you want it to look good for them, don't you? So you don't want them to go, oh, okay, thanks. You want them to go, oh, wow, that's beautiful. You want a wow factor. So another little trick is I always make one eyebrow slightly up and one eyebrow slightly down. So on this side of the face, he looks incisive and educated and curious and in control and powerful. And on this side, he looks compassionate and vulnerable and humble and interesting and lovable. So that when you show them, they go, oh my God, you've captured me. That's exactly me. Oh my God, I'm sort of powerful and incredibly intelligent and yet kind and compassionate.
Just 2 eyebrows.
Just 2 eyebrows, and it's just about millimeters there.
Just going to walk around with 1 eyebrow up.
Yeah. So I'm going to squint my eyes. Squinting your eyes is the key to success because it makes you see tone, and tone is really important. We've got extreme tone happening here because of this very bright light, and we've got that lovely pointy shadow that's happening there. And I'm going to do quite a nicely dark shadow on one side. Fall of light is everything, because the way we see the world is because light falls on it, right? We don't really see objects, we see light on the top of objects. So as soon as you've got some sort of lovely fall of light pattern happening, use it, make the most of it, because people are going to go, oh, that looks so real. But the language of a portrait is different to the language of a photograph. A photograph is a moment, it's an instant, and often, we know. Say cheese, smile, pose for the photograph, we put on a face, we do something silly, it's snapped. That's how we want to present to the world. The portrait, as we can see, takes time. It's about an ongoing. And during this time, Harjit has had a range of emotions, from bored to proud to sad to happy to I don't know what. But hopefully a portrait is something that captures a whole range of a person's emotions. Eyes, dark at the top, light at the bottom. Doesn't matter how dark the person's eyes are. Harjit's eyes are quite dark, but there's always a little bit of lightness at the bottom. And that is that lovely density that's happening there. I'm going to take some tone off here to get that sense there. We've got a mid-tone turban, which is useful. Thank you. Lucky for us, lucky for me, you've got a very unique shape of your... All moustaches and noses are unique. Yours has a very particular Harjitness about it, which is recognisable.
Thank you, Daniel. Very personal, isn't it?
It is very personal, sorry. I mean, yeah, you've also... Normally, if I'm drawing in the markers or something like that, I'm not talking about all these decisions I make. I'm just making this exposed. Sorry, thank you very much.
I don't feel like paying you at the moment.
If you want to make somebody smile as well, look at him smiling. See how eyes close? Just put the bottom eyelid up a little bit. I reckon that looks like you. What do you think? The trick to know whether you've succeeded or not is if I showed this to your daughter, Hazur.
Yes.
If she recognised you in it, then I've succeeded.
100%.
Yeah. There. So this is a demo, so I'm not going to finish it all off, but I am going to sign it, mainly because, the other thing is shoulders. So shoulders have a little bit of a slope on them. Just put your pencil along the shoulders and see where they end up, and it ends up about here. Shoulders are always much higher than we think. Sometimes we want to go neck, shoulders, and that's sort of puts the person in the category of a giraffe. It's much better to just go along there and see where it ends, and it usually ends at the bottom lip. And it's usually half a head, not head plus turban, just half a head wide. Maybe a bit more. The nice thing about our clothing as well is that V-necks or round necks, they're always good, and they make a nice foil. You've got a V-neck here, so I'm going to put that there because it's like round point. It's a nice compositional effect. So I'm going to sign it and do what I always do, and that's ask you to sign it too. But you have to agree to it. What do you think?
Oh, wow.
I see.
Yeah.
Good reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible.
Good. Now you have to sign it too.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Under yours?
No,
Or the side?
next to it there.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel.
There you go. Good. Thank you.